with their own unique identities. And they also have their own fears and they have their own dreams. Bagaetsho, if we fail to see these South Africans and who they are, and fail to understand the country they live in, let me tell you a little bit. Their story is that of the girl child who gets herself to school in the dark, often without breakfast, and all by herself because mama and had to commute to work for 2 hours. It's a story of a young man who rises above the challenges and makes it to university, but they know they have no way of surviving when he gets there. No money for food, no money for books, and nowhere to study. I told you right here. You see, even when I finished school, university. We finished school, but we'll see. It's not just my story, it's a story of so many South Africans. It's the grandmother Onang who's living in a single room shack, who now has almost doing what she's been doing for 40 years, providing for her children on a grant that barely covers basic groceries. It's the hungry little boy who walks 10 kilometers to school before that's where he'll eat the only meal for the day. I want to tell you, I walked with some of these young people. Bophelo ba bone bo boima. Kunzima. It's a story of a teenage girl who finds herself in a township home trying to figure out how she's going to raise a child without a job, without a matric, and most of the time, without the father of that child. Sometimes it's one thing because that is what is happening in our communities. Or it's that man who sits by the side of the road with his tools, waiting for somebody to meet her. Yes, but still, when you look at that person every day, every time, no one is calling them to find work. But it is a country where 4 young children, where in fact 1 in 4 children die every single day because of malnutrition. Bana ba rona ba ba hlopegang die every day because of malnutrition. It's a country where this ANC government goes and murders our people ko life esitimeni. Aba sa iphitla ba re jwang kapo jwang. Ba itseba bo makhura ba itseba. They killed our people. Now, I'm sorry. That is unforgivable. Ke na le setlogolo, ke na le cousins ba khubazegile. Why should our government mo Gauteng kill our people in that way? It's a country, in fact, where teachers can't even pass the exam they set for the children. And because even the teachers who are teaching in township schools don't want to send their children to those schools that they are teaching in. Wrong. It's a school. We are living in a country where, in fact, school children, primary school children, can't read or write. Almost 2/3 of them won't even pass matric. I want to say this to you, fellow South Africans. This is not the country of their dreams. Or ever find a work. But we allow so many of our citizens to live like that. All they want, they would give anything to give a good job, to find a good school, to find a job, to find even their home. That is why Kochwane, it was the most painful thing. When we got there, but they have to sleep with their ward councillors. EPWP. It is not the South Africa we want. It is not the country of our dreams. It is not the country of their dreams. But they can't. Because the majority of the people in our country are trapped in a prison of poverty and they can't see their way out. Bagaitsu, I want to say today, sitting in this audience, are young South Africans who have come to me to tell me their stories. They are young men and women who cannot find jobs. It doesn't matter how qualified they are, but they simply can't find work. And therefore I've invited all of these young people who are here, who it does not matter who tables State of the Nation or who doesn't. Next week when we reply in Parliament, I have asked these young people to come and join me and sit in the gallery so that I want to make sure that Parliament can look them in the eye during the SONA debate and explain to them why after all of these years are these young people still excluded from the economy in the country of their birth in 2018. And therefore, fellow South Africans, we will show them. Because their stories are not new. They are not unique. There are stories of so many South Africans, and since the dawn of our democracy, and long before that, many of our people have had to struggle to survive. We've always had hungry children in mud schools. We've always had our townships that have been ravaged by crime. This has always been the daily hardships in communities not so remote. No one here seems to know or care about them. We've always had two South Africas. Yazi ngathi kune South Africa yabanye abaphezulu. Eyabo Ramaphosa. Kube nenye South Africa yabantu bethu abahluphekayo. It's a nation of insiders. If you are connected, you are at the top. And if you are not connected, you are a nation of outsiders. This is not new, Democrats. But what is new is the fact that we are no longer making progress. We are no longer winning the fight. And I want to say this to you. 24 years ago, South Africans went out to vote in their first democratic elections. The result of this put on us a brand new road. We didn't know where this road will eventually end up. But we knew, even though we weren't sure where we were headed, but we knew we were heading in the right direction. Towards freedom. We had a leader who cared for our people. We had a leader who spoke about the possibilities of our country and what kind of nation we wanted. Abu Nelson Mandela wanted for us to build one nation united of people pursuing one common destiny. That was the dream. Yes, and that's why when I look outside here in the DA, I'm most grateful, Uguti. We are the only ones still today pursuing a dream of a South Africa for all, black, white, Indian, and colored, united in our diversity. Amandla! We were united, and we had a common destiny. And we wanted the rest of the world to see our beautiful story and see our beautiful country. We wanted for them to come here and invest their rands, their dollars, their yens, their pulas, their, whatever currency to come and invest here so that they could see that we were heading in a direction. Our good fortune would be their good fortune. And this rising tide would lift our people out of poverty and despair. They would have houses. dignified houses. Waiting na ke batle matlo e reng ha o ikega ka lone le botabelewa. Aibo. Ha re batle matlo e leng hore ha o nna kone ke one room we share le bana. We want a house that has got separate rooms, there na leng a solid roof, matlo ana leng seriti. We want the once forgotten communities will ultimately have roads, have lights, have electricity, have taps, and have toilets. That is the dream. We were impatient to get a time when black and white would live as neighbors, and that their children would sit side by side in the classrooms. I don't want a South Africa where you can still come and say, this township is for that race, this township is for that race. We want a South Africa where we come in, we don't know the color of the skin of the neighbor. We say black, white, Indian, and colored can live together. That's our South Africa. We knew we wanted this world where things will no longer feel wrong or unfair, where everything from business to sport to crime. Thank you, Dad. Hey. Kushushu. Amandla. But we wanted a place where it doesn't matter what color you are, but in business and in sport, it's no longer about that. We believe that the dignity of every South African would be restored, that every man and woman would have a chance to find work and would stand proud and independent in the world. We want it to be one country. I don't want two countries. I want one country. A country that works for all the people, not for some. But I think somewhere between then and now, things have changed. We lost that certainty that things would work out right. Nelson Mandela used to obsess about preparing young South Africans for a better tomorrow through education and reading. He called our children the rock on which our future will be built. And he never stopped talking about preparing them for this future. I want to say this to you. We have a history that is painful and a past that is with us. But we can't correct yesterday. We need to work hard to make sure we have a better tomorrow for all South Africans. That is why I say the South African dream is that if we work hard, our children can have a better tomorrow. And we are the party of the future. Amandla. Namhlanje, what is painful is that we can barely speak about the gift of a good education, because we know ours is about the worst education in the entire world. Back then, we'd vowed to heal the wounds through reconciliation and redress, that we would find the good in each other and make amends. Today, those old wounds seem to be coming up. They seem to be opened up once more. It feels like we are living in a country where racism is on the rise. I want to say this to you, fellow South Africans. You know, an eye for an eye will lead our nation blind. Ngeke sihlale la and fight racism with more racism. We need to condemn racism, condemn people who perpetuate racism, and build a united, diverse South Africa for all. Therefore, the condemnation of racism must be by all, black, white, Indian, and colored, because not all of us want a South Africa where we work together. People don't care what damage they do, as long as sometimes there's a bit of power and a little bit of money to be had. Our road that once looked promising is now filled with potholes, and our journey has grounded to a halt. So what do we do now? Do we simply fix those potholes? Do we simply fix those potholes with quick fix solutions until we pass them over again? Or in fact, if this is a different South Africa that we want, then if this is what we want, if we just put plaster, then that's not really a choice. That's an option. But I refuse to accept that option. We can just carry on down this road and hope that things will improve. We can just hope that this same old government, under a new president, will somewhat cleanse itself and use the buzzword, we will self-correct. How can they self-correct? Wake wambona utsotsi ovela nje abe nemvuselelo. We really can hope that corruption that has become such a part of our society will just disappear in J&J, and that our government will suddenly become caring and accountable. I don't know about you, but I don't have hope in this government to self-correct. I don't think they can do it by themselves. That is why they can't be able to remove Loya Baba. They will never be able to self-correct themselves. We can hope that, and without making any changes ourselves, the future will somewhat change. This is time for total change, Democrats. Amandla. We need a total change in our country because we need so much more in our nation. We need so much more of a future for our children. And I want to secure a future for all South Africans. I want all of us to know where we are headed in this country. And I want to ask you today to choose a new road. We can't just put potholes. Let us put a new road. Let us ensure that we build a South Africa we dreamt about 2 decades ago, united and strong. And I want to say this to you. When I look around here, I see South Africans who have not given up on that dream. That dream we must pursue and ensure that we pursue that. But for that to happen, we can't remain on this broken, potholed road. We're going to need a new road, a new beginning, with a fresh plan around which we can build our dreams. Fellow South Africans, this new beginning exists, and it's that new beginning that I want to talk to you about. Sibiza, a new beginning. Many of my colleagues have been working tirelessly at putting together to set our country on a new road. A plan that will achieve that. It's a plan with an obsessive focus on bringing millions of excluded South Africans into places of work, to make them part of a country, the country many other South Africans take for granted. It's ngisho ngithi. That plan begins with how we deal with early childhood development centers. We must make sure that all our children go to an early childhood development center so that before bangene primary school, they've already have development that gives them an opportunity. Ngithi ama-creche funeka abe khona in all communities so that more people can start at an early childhood development center. We can then ensure that when they come into primary schools, they have confidence. I want to say this to you. Under this plan, ETA will make sure that when we speak about SOEs, as khuluming state-owned enterprises, we speak about schools of excellence in townships, in communities. Why should our schools in townships not be any better than the schools on the other side? We must build SOEs, schools of excellence. And the way I see it, it's a partnership between public sector and private sector so that we build those schools in townships so that our people don't have to travel far to get a quality education. They can come to their communities and get a quality education for their children. Amandla. Education must not be for the lucky ones or those who have money. Education must be for everybody. We must have a BEE that focuses on education, not a BEE that benefits the politicians who are connected somewhere else. In these schools of excellence, it will mean teachers must be there who can and want to teach and are proud to send their children to those schools. fellow South Africans. But even with the best plan in the world, it will mean little if not felt and shared by all South Africans. If you are not deeply unsettled by the injustice in our society, then you cannot be part of bringing this change and a new cause for South Africa. This unfairness is what drives the DA. In the DA, we are saying life is unfair for too many people, and that's why our plan deals comprehensively with the question of justice. Justice through real empowerment for ordinary South Africans, not those who are connected at the top through this ANC's government's BEE. It's ngukutshela muhla iDA ingena la asifuni BEE abaphezulu. We want BEE where ordinary South Africans like you and I can own shares in companies so that we can go forward. It's about share ownership of those who go underground to own shares, those who work in companies to own shares. It's about ensuring that our schools of excellence in our townships also benefit. But justice is also about giving title to people's land and title deeds to for those who are dispossessed people in rural communities and in townships. Abantu base Alexandra funeke babe ne title deed yabo. Abantu bahlala noba bahlala kuphi nakare batho ba rona abana le title deed, especially boko magaeng. Wayithi nekopane le khosi bengihlangene nonkosi uGoodwill Zwelithini. Ngamcela naye ngathi inkosi ngicela sikhulume kahle ukuthi umhlaba wasemakhaya ungabenefita umphakathi kanjani ukuthi abantu bethu bakhona ukuba nama shares kuloyo mhlaba baye phambili. Amandla. But I want to say this to you, this plan also involves being obsessed with helping young job seekers get on the foot on the first rung of the jobs ladder. And what we are saying is that not everybody will qualify for university. As Kulmeni, so the pass rate from last year was not 75%. Abantwana bethu bayapasa, but they don't qualify for university. So if everybody is not going to go to a college or get an apprenticeship, many young South Africans will be excluded from these options. But this does not mean that they should be excluded from work opportunities. Fellow South Africans, what I believe is that the most exciting part of the plan is the introduction of a voluntary year of a national civilian service for unemployed matriculants. If you are not working multi-matric, sifunu program that will last you 1 year. In that year, it will allow you to serve our country, our community, in healthcare, in education, in policing, and along with that, you will receive a monthly stipend so that we are konuk sebenza and learn where you want to go. I'm going to fight for that program so that young people are able to find work. Amandla. These, in that year, you will become a teacher assistant in the school. They will become administrative assistants in clinics and in hospitals. And they will join the police academies and go on to become patrols as one of the examples. Because our children will know freedom. Even if they don't get paid a lot, but they can get an experience in that year that will allow them to participate in the economy. Amandla. And what we are saying is that the top performers throughout the year will receive funding to study in those fields and use that year as a springboard towards.
And there we have it, just coming out of that hashtag DA. So now we do know that that is.
Ever feel like there are no options for them? And this year of public service will go a long way towards broadening these options. But that's to check. We don't have to wait until we are in national government before we can start opening up opportunities for young people. 2 weeks ago, we launched an initiative called Vukuzaki. Ivukuzakhe, it means awuvuke, get up and do it. Manje leyo program, it says it will connect thousands of young job seekers with internship opportunities. I've already written to my CEOs. And from our side, EDA, Ntate Mashaba, and Ntate Msimanga, and all our governments, we will make sure that on this portal, we will list jobs and internship opportunities for young people so that they can participate in them. And I've already challenged the private sector to match our offers, because asifuna abantwana abahlala emakhaya babhene intsango, ngifuna abantwana abazosebenza bangene emsebenzini. Amandla. All I'm asking is that young people must get a foot in the door. We must make sure that we are showing young people that there are options out there for them. And for those, we must be showing employers what these young people are capable of doing. Fellow South Africans, the only future for South Africa, if we are going to create jobs, is by building small businesses. Small businesses are the way we are going to create mass employment. And I want our people to become entrepreneurs. They can run factories, and we want to make it easier for them. We are going to reduce tax for abantu abaqala factory so that they can hire more people. We don't want tax so that it funds a bloated government. We want tax so that it helps people start their factories. That's why I want a national venture capital, so that you can apply and start your business in communities. Amandla. Let me say this to you, Democrats. How? You are helping me. Our governments are already hard at work. And I'm proud of the work that the city of Johannesburg, the city of Tshwane, and the city of Nelson Mandela Bay are doing in partnership with coalitions. I want to ensure that our governments include more metro police, as Ntate Mashaba has already begun, so that we fight against drugs in our communities. We don't want our young people to lose their dreams because they are suffering from drugs. And therefore, Ntate Mashaba, I want to thank you for your program of increasing the number of police. And Msimanga has already done the same, so that our young people never have to face up to drug dens. If you are a drug dealer and we know who you are, your days are numbered. The DA will come after you. Our communities must be safe, and therefore we want to partner with national police so that we deal with it in urban and rural communities. Fellow South Africans, I, like you, am very concerned about the state of our nation. I'm very concerned that we are losing ground in the fight against poverty and unemployment. I'm very concerned about the elderly whose anxiety grows every day, not knowing whether their grants will be paid or not. Where's where mom? Where's followed? But we must, and we don't have to accept this. We don't have to accept millions of poor young South Africans must remain trapped in another country. We can make a fresh start. We can become one nation with one future. One nation, one future. One nation, one future. Some of us will have to make tough choices. We have to make tough choices at the ballot box. Some of us will have to make the tough choices about how we conduct ourselves in business. Some political parties will have to make tough choices about coalitions and alliances. But perhaps no one will face tougher choices than the new president of the ANC. Fellow South Africans, I want to say this. To Mr. Ramaphosa, I want to congratulate you on your election in December. I really do hope that this is a start of an era of cooperation and partnership between our parties, where we agree on the things that South Africa must do. Now more than ever, we need to set aside differences. You see, when you say you support the Constitution, The Constitution guarantees rights to our people. And when Dr. Ramaphosa or the ANC, wherever they are in the next few months, if we agree on something, we must work together to deliver on those things. We can't allow petty politics and point scoring to threaten the safety and well-being of our people. But let me tell you something. The only way we'll be able to defeat the crippling drought in the Western and Eastern Cape is if we work together across all levels of government, where in fact it affects millions of South Africans, and they are counting on us. They are not looking to us to blame this one or to say that one. They must ask us to work together so that South Africa can become a water-secure country and resilient cities, so that our people, whether they are in Limpopo, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, KZN, wherever, in whichever province they are, we can make sure banally meets. The people of these provinces are part of our country, and they are entitled to the best service we can give them. I'm asking you to do what is right in this crisis. Beyond the drought, we want to engage in a constructive way with government's plan for our country. But to do this, we know what exactly that plan is. The other thing is, I don't know which sauna will be delivered on Thursday. Is it going to be Cyril's or is it going to be Jacob? Alas, we don't know. But let me tell you something. This is not a secret. If it is Jacob Zuma, we are not going to be addressed by a criminal. We are not going to be wasting our time. And at this plan, we are going to hold accountable. Now the time for the ANC is running out. Amandla. Because we need a new beginning. We don't need false hope and empty promises. Many people look at the ANC that Mr. Ramaphosa has inherited, and the corrupt people elected around him. Yes, it is such a mangled marsh. But you can't have something with two heads. That is a monster. So even if it's the same organization, it's still the same corrupt organization, just with a different head. Democrats, let me say this to you. There are no messiahs in politics. The only thing that will deliver us from this situation is a strong and a capable government that does not have cater deployment, that does not have people who are politically connected being sent to government. It's a capable state that can work against a unified program to deliver for our people. And so Democrats, whether it's Jacob Zuma or Cyril Ramaphosa at the helm, the quality of ANC governments does not make for a capable state. We know that. That's why they can steal in the Free State and steal in Freedom. That's why in Gauteng, they can kill our people in diversity Bay. That's why in the Northwest, they can kill our people in Marikana. It's about lacking a capable state. So if Dr. Ramaphosa wants to prove me wrong, he knows what he must do. I want to tell you, someone once said to me, it's not a principle until it costs you something. Well, we now have a choice to show us. He now has a choice to show us his principles. His choices will be tough. And in many cases, he will have to take a hard line against people in his own party and his alliance for the sake of our country. I know it's not easy to take a stance against your own people. I don't care whether you are a mayor, whether you are a premier, what position you hold in the party. I will take you on when you don't do the things that we want us to do. We are elected to serve the people, not our own jackets. That is why when people are asking me, hey, what's happening? I have a responsibility as the leader to come in and say, as I will deal with you. It does not matter who you are. Because we can't sit here and say we play politics at the expense of our people. These are tough choices. They are hard. But if you want principled leadership, you must deal with the people. And I think the first choice that the ANC faces is about Jacob Zuma. I'm going to ask them again. If you want a fresh start, you can't have it with Jacob Zuma. It has to be one or the other. Jacob Zuma must be removed immediately. That is why I'm asking for a postponement of SONA. Not because I don't want SONA to happen, but I don't want it to be delivered by Tsotsi, who's going to waste our time. Let them solve Matata Bone and let Parliament go on with its work. Amandla. Now they are saying, no, we must organize a deal for amnesty for Jacob Zuma. If you do that, you might as well throw away the constitution. But don't humiliate Jacob Zuma. How do you not humiliate somebody who has humiliated our country? He faces charges from us, 783 charges of corruption, racketeering, and I'm stating it here on record. I am not going to drop that case against Jacob Zuma. He will end up in Sun City. But he's not going to be the only one. What we've got to do is make sure, along with Jacob Zuma, the system that allowed our country to be plundered through capture must be broken, starting with, in fact, appointing the head of the NPA who is not aligned to the president. We must ensure that this will be followed by new independent individuals that head up SARS, that head up SABC, that head up state security, and in fact, in key ministries like finance, public enterprises, and mineral resources. Fellow South Africans, the next choice that probably Mr. Ramaphosa has to face, it's about putting our children first. If we are going to achieve a change, we can't have SATU giving people jobs in schools. We must stop them, and we must protect our teachers, and we must make sure the best teachers end up teaching in the schools. If Mr. Ramaphosa is serious, he must stand up against SATU. I will stand up against them. Because it's wrong that 4 out of 5 of our grade 4 children in South Africa cannot read well enough to understand what they are reading in any language. And the reason they can't read is because no one is held responsible for not teaching them. This is the greatest injustice in South Africa. If you are committed to a fresh start in South Africa, if you claim to care all, then this is where we must begin. Let me say this to Mr. Ramaphosa. He's going to have to make a tough choice about our constitution. Will he protect it, or will he in fact make sure the failure of his party to deliver justice for our people through land reform? No society can advance without private property rights. You cannot talk about growing the economy on one end and then expropriating land without compensation on the other. It's either or. We want to make sure all Makuma, Bontate, Masam, wherever, in whatever communities they are, let those families own the land. It's private property rights. And therefore, will he be able to stand up for the principle of private property rights? Will he admit that the Constitution still today is the best guarantee of a fair nation with shared prosperity? Or will he instead protect a corrupt system that failed our people? Democrats, we must protect the Constitution and kill corruption, not protect corruption and kill the Constitution. These are some of the choices. Now, fellow South Africans, Democrats, if you want to put South Africans first, we will have to work hard to build this country into what it can be. But if he fails to act, then his party will pay dear in 2019. Kenya 2019. We don't have time to tinker with failed plans. We need an entirely new beginning for South Africa. Fellow South Africans, in the next 18 months, all of us are going to have to think very hard and very carefully about the kind of country we want to live in. The days of passive politics are over. The days of one-party dominance in South Africa have to come to an end. And now every election must bring something that we play for. Every vote will count. And therefore, to borrow the words of Chanua Achebe, every generation must recognize the task it is peculiarly designed by history and by providence to perform. That's why we all have to become active participants in this democracy. We have to fight for a future we want. We have to talk to our friends and family. And if we have ideas on how to achieve the future, then we have to share these ideas with people. I'm asking you to be an activist for a new beginning. This is our country, and in fact, the next election is the best choice, is the best chance we have at securing a future you want. If that future sounds like the country I described today, the united South Africa that we almost lost, then almost all of us must work together to bring it back. Let us never, Democrats, rest until enough of our people are on our side. Let us kick off corruption. Let us welcome back investors. Let us fix our schools and fund our universities. Let us fight for the young people of our country so that they can find work. Let us not rest until our people have the dignity of a job. Let us all stand up together, united, and say, we are one country and we are in this together. Fellow South Africans, let us live and strive for freedom in South Africa, our beautiful land. Amurena amuluges chabasayesu. Nkosi sigeleli Africa. God bless South Africa. God sien South Africa. Let us go forward, united in prosperity. Kialemuha, diamulela, nkosi. Amandla! Amandla! Kiri ho ya rona. Okay.